Hi, I'm Barbara Fletcher, and I'm an artist at Western Avenue Studios, and I work in the medium of paper. And I do a casting process with paper in a lot of my pieces. So I sculpt a form in clay, and then I do a plaster cast on top of the clay. I have all my plaster molds back there. When I have the mold, I press many layers of handmade paper pulp wet inside the mold, and then I dry the paper and take it out and paint it. So that's how some of these pieces were done. The other paper technique I use is sprayed paper. The lamps that I have here, I have a big air compressor attached to an air gun, and I blow paper pulp out with high pressure through the gun onto a wire form, and that's how I get the lamps shades onto the wire structure. I've always liked working in fiber. Originally, I worked with fabric and did surface design on fabric, painting and dyeing, and then doing sculptural things with fabric. But then eventually I transitioned to working with handmade paper. I like to use recycled fibers, paper that may be thrown out or not used. I recycle it and use it and make my paper pulp. And as you can see, I use a lot of figurative and animal and fish imagery, which I really like. I snorkel, so I'm a big swimmer, so I love the underwater experience, and I'm trying to kind of create my own little environments here, and that's kind of my motivation. I've started doing I consider myself a sculptor of mixed media and paper, but more recently I have been working in 2 dimensions and doing monoprints and cut paper, which I have a few of these pieces around unframed. But I also am a color person, so I love color. And as I said, I've created my own little environments here. Okay, so this is my woodland forest piece, my diorama. I guess when I was a kid, I liked to visit the Natural History Museum, and if people remember these scenes where you look into something and are fascinated by what's going on in a scene. So I've created a number of these 3D dioramas, my little environments, and this one is very mixed media because I do incorporate some actual branches, real branches, into the piece, as well as I have this tree trunk down here is actually a cast paper though. So I've really recreated that in the paper. But I've given it kind of a skewed perspective looking into the forest. So it's a bit of a skewed perspective. And then I've also incorporated branches into the real branches, tree branches, into the side here to kind of focus your eye on the background. And I've done some painting with fabric dyes and acrylic paints, which kind of help focus your eye. I belong to the loading dock gallery downstairs on the main floor, which is a smaller group, but you know, we're a very enthusiastic group, and we share a lot of different things. We look at each other's work and critique or get feedback, I think, from other people. It's just kind of a wonderful atmosphere to have, to be in a group of this many people. And quite a few people are here on this floor during the day. I'm here on and off during the day as well. So it's just a fun group, an interesting group, a lot of different techniques and medium going on here all the time. So, and we're trying to actually have more educational things going on here with the workshops and lectures and things. So it's a very stimulating environment.
My name's Kevin Connolly, and I'm at Old School Woodworking, and I've been at the studios here for about 3 years. I was a former industrial arts teacher in public schools for 36 years, and after retirement decided to take up something that I truly love to do and continue with my passion for building furniture and working with wood in general. And so I found Western Ave Studios and found a space to put my work in here for people to see and make some purchases and so forth. So I've been working with wood for about 40 years of my life now, and taught in school many different subjects over the years, woodwork being one of them. So I've got a passion for building furniture, and I've done some wooden boat making and other things as well. So this is kind of just a continuation of what I did for years, teaching kids how to work with their hands and working with different mediums, including wood, and decided to do this after retirement. And it's working out well here at Western Ave Studios, working with so many other wonderful artists and so many different mediums. So my wood, for the most part, I work with a lot of North American hardwoods, and a lot of cherry and maple and red oak and black walnut, woods such as that. And I do a few pieces out of mahogany, but a lot of them with the American hardwoods. And try to, as often as possible, work with a lot of woods in very natural colors and let people see the wood as it normally is, without a lot of dark finishes and things like you might find much more in the furniture stores and so forth. And use a lot of old school, old style joinery methods and so forth. So furniture is made very, very well with old-fashioned joinery that you don't find in most of your furniture stores today. Well, it's interesting working with a lot of other artists in the same place, for instance, that you get inspired with other people's art. And I work in the loading dock gallery downstairs, so I work with many artists in fine arts and painting and ceramic and glass and so forth. So it's just nice to be part of the artist community in general, and to share ideas and talk about strategies and so forth. So it's been rewarding just to be part of a big art community, as opposed to having a shop somewhere on your own where you don't have that kind of support and camaraderie that you have with the fellow artists here. There are 248 artist studios plus the 50 lofts, so there's a great number of artists here, and many, many different types of art as well. So it's a very diverse, interesting group. This glass cabinet over here is a cherry cabinet that I'd actually made a gallery show I had a year ago in May. It's a very interesting cabinet. It's a little bit different from the normal pieces that I do. And it's got illuminated lighting inside with LED lights, so it's a great place to display particular glass pieces, or if you had other kinds of collections that you had, it would be a great way to display. The wood is natural cherry, which is an oil polyurethane finish and doesn't have any stains, so this will become much darker in time. And it's got interesting hardware without handles and so forth to allow you to access it and yet keep the lines very clean. I use some conventional styles of shaker type styles of furniture and woodwork and clocks and so forth. And you'll find some mission furniture here with the strips on the side. I use furniture at times with multiple woods. These tables are made with bird's eye maple on the top, cherry on the base, and even some black walnut strips, all in natural wood with no stains, so people can see the natural colors. A lot of people love pieces like this Lazy Susan, which is all natural pieces of wood. Sometimes people think you've stained them or you painted them. So these are just mahogany and cherry and maple and black walnut and oak all put together, and very, very natural, where many people don't see a lot of natural wood in furniture stores because typically you get a lot of wood that's stained. It's very important. I mean, not only for the idea of being able to work around your home, but people need hobbies. They need things to do in retirement or during your time off and things of that nature. Certainly for using woodworking tools and machines. Technology will never replace it. You're going to be using these same things we have for hundreds of years already. We will continue to use them. So sometimes it isn't so much the skill, it's having the confidence that I can do these things. And having been a teacher for many, many years, having kids work in your class, build the confidence that they can use these tools, carries with them forever. And I had many students that left my classes and started their own businesses. And I think it's really good for people to do something that's a tangible item that you've made. It's just a different sense, like someone doing fine art and painting, that you have this real sense of pride. And I worked with middle school students as well as high school students, and sometimes they weren't the best students in academic areas, and they'd make a beautiful piece of furniture. And for the first time in themselves, for many years of education, they did something that they were really proud of, and it kind of can continue on. You do that once in your life, and somehow it's something that can carry on to many other areas of your life as well. So I think there's many, many great benefits to it.
My name is Joe Pompey, and this is the Pompey & Company Stained Glass Studio. We have actually been around for close to 40 years. We started in a storefront in Medford, West Medford, Mass, going back, that was like 32 years ago. And we moved here to Weston Avenue as sort of our retirement 3 years ago. We are an old-fashioned family business. It's myself and my wife Ivy and my adult daughter Marissa, who has recently joined us in not only the stained glass part of the business, but she's a fused glass jewelry artist. I started playing around with stained glass. It was just a hobby going back, like I said, about 40 years ago. Had just got a master's degree from Northeastern University in vocational rehabilitation administration, and worked in that field just for a short period of time. Was in between jobs, and I started playing with glass as a hobby, and got a couple of commissions, and one thing led to another. I ended up renting some storefront space. It was going to be just very temporary, and suddenly almost 40 years has gone by. I like working in glass because I at one time had a lot of interest in architecture, and actually maybe being an architect at one time. So the glass we do is considered architectural stained glass. We work basically in all different styles. Being in New England especially, Victorian is a style that really was very popular, all 40 years that we've been working in the field. More recently, we've been getting more contemporary commissions, which I really like working in. If you look around the studio, you will actually see that we don't use a lot of color. People are surprised when they come into a stained glass studio and are expecting to see windows that are just all color typical of what you might see in a church environment. The glass we do, my style really is much more dependent on line and texture. I like to weave line and texture together with color basically being an accent. Again, this is a real family operation. My wife and I are basically, we work as partners. Everything that you see here, we've both worked on. I typically do the design aspect of it, and then I help with some of the cutting, but Ivy basically is the mechanic. She's the one who actually assembles the glass and builds the windows. People think that that's somewhat ironic. I mean, stereotypically, you would think that Ivy would be the designer and I would be the guy working with the tools and building the windows. And so we have it a little bit backwards, but it works quite well for us. We've been at Weston Avenue for 3 years, and moving here to Weston Avenue has given us a new lease on our creative lives. Having been doing this for 40 years, you get a little bit stale after a while, but being part of this creative community, it just rubs off on you. You want to try new things, you want to expand. So it's really sustained our interest, and we're retirement age, but have no desire to stop doing what we're doing. We just love doing what we're doing, love being here. Yeah, I think that certainly the city and the city fathers, so to speak, really understand the importance of the arts and how it relates to the economy of Lowell. So they have been extremely supportive to us in all of our efforts. I like the idea of being in an urban setting, and just sort of the variety of culture that you see here. I like working more in abstract line and design. This is an interior door. This is an example of the type of work I like to do. Relatively simplistic design, and once again, just form and line. Another area where we have a lot of expertise, if you look at a window like this is a prairie style window, Frank Lloyd Wright and the Prairie Artist. That's an area where we have done a lot of research. I've had an opportunity to actually visit a number of Lloyd Wright's homes that he's built. Here's another one here. This window here that you can see with the, now here's one that has a lot of color in it. And this is actually part of what we call the Four Seasons. We've done this particular style window to represent the Four Seasons, different colors. This one here, as you could probably guess, represents autumn.
My name is Talia Kako, and I'm a fiber artist, and I do woven pieces and mixed mediums, so, but basically fiber. I've always been interested in textiles, and I went to school for that, so that's my main interest, you know. So I just got interested in weaving basically, and then I went to school to, you know, have more like design but majoring in weaving. So, and then I went to school in Finland, where I'm from, and I was a weaving teacher there. So I think the Western Avenue Studio is a great place to be a fiber artist, because this has a history, this Lowell, for textile history, and then I started looking some studio space. I worked at home and I wanted to have outside place of my home, and then I found this one, and I have been here nearly 9 years, so it's a long time. So this piece, for example, I weave the top layer and I paint it before in the loom, and then when I take it out of the loom I still paint more. And then there is an underlayer, which is the second layer under, and that's like applique, so I can put different things under there, and that kind of builds up that image. So it has a dimension, and that brings that extra dimension for my work. This piece is all woven, and it's woven with the coated copper, so it has that little shine depending on the lighting. And then I can shape it because of the metal weave is kind of like stiff, so I shape it afterwards. I take it out of the loom. But this is painted all before I weave on the loom. These are my dyed scarves, which I do the dyes. So I start with a white fabric, and then I do all the dyes. And this is my silk ones, which you see the pattern more, but basically these are dyed same way. So I fold them different ways, and then I use like a shape resist technique, which I use like wooden clamps, which are different shapes. So like here is like circle, and that's the pattern I have with that clamp. So these are my woven scarves. So this is just woven, and I do the like a different colors and patterns. So this has kind of like a square pattern, but there's a two. And this is material is bamboo. This is actually woven in one piece. There's two warps, and then this middle part here goes under here where it's not on the top. So they are kind of like crossing. So this is actually quite much work involved in this piece, but so this is done with a double beam loom.
my name is Erica Nomar, and this is my glass fusing studio. This is deliciousglass.com or deliciousglassfusingstudio.com as well. The way I got started is I took a class in Boston at Diablo Glass and Metal, and I took all different types of mediums, the blowing and stained glass, and the fusing just was really easy, and it wasn't hot. With the hot glass, it gets very hot and it's wet, so you have to really be careful with it. This is just taking sheet glass. Right here I have a bunch of colored sheet glass. We have also frit, which is ground up art glass. And we have stringers, which are 2mm and 1mm 17-inch rods. And you just place the glass in the kiln, which brings it up to about 1200, 1300 degrees. I can go to 1285, 1365, different temperatures. And you place the glass on the kiln and you fuse it together and you get one single pane of glass. But it takes about 18 to 22 hours to fuse glass. If I were to put it in longer or hotter, this would melt down and you wouldn't get the texturing. Then you have to take it out and you pick a mold. You actually usually have a mold in mind. And you place it back in the kiln. And then I need to slump it and heat it up again. And that'll give it the shape. This is slumped into a mold, and this bowl was draped over this. And that's how that got that shape. Well, it's just a great place to be. There's lots of other artists. There's opportunities to meet the public and interact with the public. I'm also going to be doing classes, so it provides a space for classes. It's a really neat complex with lots going on and tons of art and different mediums and really nice people. So it's been really nice. I'm pretty new. I started last July and got the kiln up and running about October or so. This is a piece that I made for somebody who's getting married. This is their wedding gift, and I still have to slump it. And you saw my bowl. I do love my bowl. I like spaces. I like having openings in the glass. I just think it's interesting, and I also really like this heat reactive glass. It's called steel blue, and it's actually starts out as all blue, and what's exposed to the oxygen and heat gets this sort of metallic looking appearance, and what's covered stays the blue. Here's again my holy pieces of the holes. I do like the holes. A lot of people don't though. They prefer more solid pieces. I think it's more practical. We need to do a better job of promoting, and we're getting more organized to do that. And I think social media is a big thing, Facebook and Instagram and things like that. So we are doing some promotions on radio stations actually, which we've been trying to get feedback from, like asking people how they heard of Western Avenue, and some people have heard from us about us on the radio. But we work with the community theater here, the Lowell, oh God, I don't even know, Merrimack Valley Repertoire Theater, something like that, and we do provide art for the theater. And I think networking, and of course the Lowell Folk Festival in the summer, maybe getting some tables out there, and that's a great festival. Lowell's a great city with lots going on. So, buying local helps the local economy and helps everybody where you live. Not to knock outside manufacturing or anything, but when you buy locally, it just seems to stimulate, the local economy, and it's nice to buy goods that are actually made in the U.S. sometimes. And all of this art glass happens to be made here in the United States. So that's kind of unique for nowadays. But yeah, buy local, buy Lowell. It's great.